So yeah, first thank you to Neve and Dylan and yourself, Peter, for introducing us as well. So we're going to have a little bit more of like a chat format with me and Arlana, sort of to let you know a couple of different things that we've done to give an idea of our experience. We are both undergrad students, so just to give you that different perspective from postgrad students. Myself, I am a third year, well, I keep saying third year, technically I'm now fourth year undergrad student at the University of Stirling doing psychology. I am also been involved in Students as Partners in Learning, which is something we'll talk about a little bit more. And I've also been doing a role recently as a student engagement officer at the university. So yeah, to give a little bit of context as well, I am a mature student, unless you couldn't tell. I have a child that I look after, my son, who will turn 9 this weekend as well. So it's been a really interesting year for me. So yeah, hey, now we can see Arlana. Hello. So yeah, essentially the student engagement officer role was something that came throughout the pandemic from the Students as Partners in Learning, which initiative which started it also during the summer. The academic and development team first got in touch with students to ask if we would road test these new ways of doing the learning and our modules. Arlana will go into a little bit more about this and her experience. But essentially, this sort of started up at Stirling for us to sort of build on student relationships, for us to sort of join student collaboration with lecturers, with faculties, people that we hadn't worked with before. And we noticed that this was a really beneficial relationship for both students and for the staff at the university. So throughout this, we were able to then find that there was availability for 2 student engagement officer posts. I was lucky enough to get one of them, and my colleague Fanny, who's not with us today, she was the other colleague who managed to do it. So what we managed to do from this was work on our own project, which was to look into sort of what everybody has felt at the university throughout the year. So what key messages we can get from it, what learning we can have, and what people are most excited about for the following year. So within the last 2-3 months, what we've done is we've done a number of focus groups with a mixture of both staff and students. We've also completed a questionnaire where we sent that again to both staff and students to get as much feedback as possible. A couple of the main things that we've learned is that people don't want to go back in the lecture hall, as Dylan and Eve have pointed out as well. We don't want to be sitting there with 100, 200, 300 people. People are enjoying having the availability, sorry, to be able to sit at home, listen to their lectures, sort of be able to choose when they start and stop. One way that we've been doing that at Stirling has been taking what would be considered an original 1 hour lecture and breaking it down into small chunks, which then meant that you could start something. And in my case, if my son was needing my help because he was home learning for a majority of the year as well, it meant I could stop and I could then help him and carry on. So this mode of learning is something that everybody we've spoken to is very, very keen to continue. One thing that a lot of people are mentioning, in fact, the majority, is that they're missing the face-to-face with regards to practicals. So things like being able to take part in a swimming experiment or taking part in lie detector tests is something that everybody's missing. So we're hoping that that will continue. To mention slightly on assessments, like the previous presentation, a lot of our cohort have all said that they don't want to go back to the traditional assessments. They don't want to sit in a big hall and sort of sit facing the wall and taking it like that. A lot of people have enjoyed the online assessments. At Stirling, we were given a set time period. However, we were allowed up to 24 hours to sit within that time period, which then gave the flexibility for parents, for people in different countries, things like that, to be able to set their assessment. We found that that's worked really well. However, it has also opened up the question of, do we really need to set these end of year exams? Can we do smaller tests throughout the year? Can we do more appropriate assessments instead? So that's something that will be brought in a little bit more with us as well. So let's just give you a small introductory into what the project is that we've been doing. We're currently in the middle of doing the analysis for everything, and we're hoping to get that written up within the next month so that we can then share it with everyone and start to share the views of what we've found, certainly at Stirling, to hopefully help share that with the wider community. So what I'd like to talk about just very briefly before I move on to Arlana is just to mention, certainly from my own perspective, I've certainly found this year to be a mixture of both positive and negative. As mentioned by the previous presentation, it's been a blank slate, which has been great for me personally, because it's meant that I've been able to get involved in so many more opportunities. I've been able to essentially live the university experience that everyone that's younger than me or doesn't have the commitments that I do has been able to do. So for example, being able to be here today for the conference, I'd have never been able to do that if it was a face-to-face situation. So being able to do that, being able to do the student engagement role, all of these things have been fantastic for me, which has come from being able to do online. Moving forward, there have been opportunities that I've went for and been able to get for next year. And again, I'm very keen to continue the blended approach. So being able to talk to people on the computer, being able to go in if I need to as well. So these are things that I've learned from it as well. As an autistic student as well, it's definitely built on my confidence. I have made so many new relationships with the staff that are at the university, to be able to ask them for help, to be able to just say hi, which I would never been able to do in the past, to be able to get involved and support other students as well is something that I found fantastic. So that's just a little bit about me, a little bit about what I've been doing. I'm now going to pass on to Arlana, who's going to introduce herself and then talk a little bit about the student engagement, student partners in learning, initiative. Arlana.
Thank you, Sarah. So my name is Arlana. I'm a third year economics and finance student, and I've been also engaged as student as partners in learning role. So it all started from my interest in being a module representative for different modules, usually in finance. And I really liked how all of the questions I can have, or people in the class can have, or we can all pass through, like me organize like one paper with all of the bullet points we want to talk about, and then discuss it with the teachers and solve them. Or maybe if it's not possible to solve this academic year, it would pass on to the next cohorts. So they will be able to get even better experiences studying. Yeah. And this engagement in module representative role really motivated me to apply right away when I saw students as partners in learning role. I was at home in Kazakhstan in the mountains, and in the morning I saw the advertisement of this role, and I had to film the video during the day so I can send it as fast as possible. And I filmed it, yeah, in the mountains when we had hiking with my family. That's how motivated I was. And yeah, I was really happy to then receive email confirmation that I got this role, and I was really excited and happy to meet people, especially like our managers, like the academic advising of the academic office, Katriona and Tom. Yeah, so that was really interesting to start talking to people, and surprisingly, as always, most of the there's a joke that a lot of module representatives are usually mid on campus. So it turned out a lot of people from students as partners in learning were previous module representatives, and we somehow saw each other. And I was really excited to make a kind of change this semester to make it more smooth than, for example, the spring semester in 2020, when everything becomes like the academic year changed so abruptly and no one had enough time to adapt for it. And for my autumn semester, I came to Scotland, and surprisingly, I didn't notice any much differences. Like, apart from not being able to socialize with my classmates, to walk on campus, to discuss our lectures, we were kind of able to do it online because we already knew each other from previous years. So it wasn't the biggest problem. But only minor things I noticed were obviously lack of socializing, like engagement with students. Everyone's quite shy to turn on their cameras to talk. Usually I was the only person who was coming to the lecture with my camera on, and sometimes by mistake, and then teacher would be like, please leave your camera. But if anyone else wants to join, that would be great. And so this motivated me to think more about the problems with students being shy over the internet, but eventually they have been somehow solved in different ways. And I was really happy that with students as partners in learning role, I was able not to only give a feedback on the module for my teachers, but also for different modules in other degrees I would never think of. For example, I was able to check Canvas materials and give feedback on French history, on computer science, JavaScript writing. And this is something I would never do on my economics degree. So this was a very interesting experience. But other than that, I really enjoyed the fact that this year, due to this role, we were able to implement changes much faster. So not to wait the whole academic year until it happens, but also do it right away, almost in a matter of weeks. Yeah, but still, I didn't see much of a change. But when on the second semester in spring, I wasn't able to return to Scotland from Kazakhstan, I started noticing much more obstacles on my academic journey. So turned out, I was thinking that it's going to be okay. I can just study, all the materials are online, and apart from 6 hours difference, my teachers were friendly and always happy to accommodate my time differences and start a bit earlier, or like I was booking the earlier time slots for my seminars. However, things I noticed a bit later is during the presentation. So for example, in some Asian countries, turned out when I was discussing it with some other international students, there's like a big thing about living with a big family and having a lot of people over and a lot of family gatherings. So you're not kind of allowed to escape them, only if you have some kind of assignments, but still. And also, I noticed that a lot of international students, when they come back, or even like Scottish students, when they come back to their homes, they notice the thing that after leaving, their parents weren't thinking that they're going to come back and they don't have enough space to study. So those two problems were actually so relatable to me. And due to them, I had a problem with one assignment. When during the presentation, I wasn't able to talk for too long because out of nowhere we had some people at home around. Yeah, and it affected my grades, but I'm really glad that this experience helped me to start thinking more about other people's experience. So not only about myself in the university accommodation, who is just sitting in my quiet room, has a perfect internet, a lot of study space, but also about those people who weren't able to return and did everything online from home. So after this experience, I started talking more to other people, like even more than the previous semester, and discussing different things that are happening. And we came up with some small Word document, like kind of a mini version of a research paper on the problems of international students or like UK students when they go back home, and also about accommodation for cultural differences. And hopefully that will help our university in some way next year, because we're still working on it. But I would be really excited to like, that was a very interesting experience. Like, only because I wasn't able to return to the country, I started noticing that that are much more than just physical things like Wi-Fi, working table, but also something cultural, which we cannot escape when we go back home, especially like in Asia or maybe Latin America, as I noticed with a lot of my friends. Yeah, so this year has been very, very motivating in terms of understanding other people's experiences. And hopefully in the future, we will be able to, like in the nearest future, we will be able to write down and describe the different cultural aspects and how they affect academic experience very, to say, more in detail, more in depth. And possibly it could help, for example, the policy of extenuating circumstances or something like this, which can then help students to still maintain their academic performance, because as I noticed, a lot of them, when they go back home, their academic performance drops, especially like by one class, and it can be really frustrating, especially for third and fourth year students. So I'm really glad I was engaged in this year, and thank you for listening. Sarah?
Thank you, Arlana. That was a really nice point, and definitely I would be very excited to read what you've written and be able to share that with everyone as well. So that's fantastic. The only final bit I wanted to mention is through the Students as Partners in Learning, we've also been able to work alongside our student learning services to create new modules. We also took part in podcasts as well, which was really good fun. So yeah, we know that this is going to continue for the next year, and hopefully we can learn a lot from it as well as the uni. So thank you very much for your time, guys. If anyone has any questions, just let us know.